Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Four Lads Rangers Midweek Live. What a time to be alive. Kenny did some rhyming in the title. Do you like it?
I didn't bother looking, mate. What did you say?
That's exactly what I say when you send me the agenda, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Um,
That's why I
I
said it.
tried. I tried. Look, Gers in Spain, Falkirk, Payne, Raskin, Barron, and referees again. Did you not like it? I quite
Not
liked it.
bad at all, mate. It's not bad. Did you use AI for that? Did you?
No, that was all my own. Why is this? The Steam pop up, for Football Manager, it just popped up in the middle of my screen because this computer's quite old and it took ages to load. I beg it, look, what a shocking start to the show. Not my title, though, it's unbelievable. Andrew, how are you? You well? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, buddy. I sympathise with the football manager notification. That does take the piss sometimes, but yeah, I like that. I like that the title. It's it's the rhyming. I like a bit of alliteration when I do titles for things, but that's some good stuff right there.
Thanks, mate. I appreciate it. Kenny, we'll try you again. What do you think of the title? Was it lovely?
Fantastic, mate. And it shows your lack of professionalism that your Steam thing come up there because mine came up about 5 minutes ago, and it comes up all the time, doesn't it? So
Yeah, but I only logged in at like 2 minutes too. You know that.
exactly my point.
Right, I've just wasted the whole 2 minutes of the start of this show. Good evening, everyone. I hope you are all well. You won't be noticing why Chris Bett looks like Andrew Stewart. That's because Chris Bett is still unwell. So I apologise, ladies and gentlemen. Christopher will not be joining us this evening. He's still struggling as our old Christopher. So some may say it's because Rangers are winning and doing well. I'll let you make up your own mind. Kenny, Danny Rohl's taking the team off to Spain this week. He'll have the chance to work with the team, tweak some things. He said that he believes during the split fixtures, tactics will be vitally important. It'll also be a chance for him. They're going to start planning for next season, start planning budget and all that sort of stuff. How do you feel about this week in Spain for the team?
Well, if we come back and get a victory, I think it'll be absolutely fine. I think that's the problem, isn't it? That we've had our fingers burned a little bit by going away and taking breaks and then coming back not being particularly good. So, look, being serious about it, it's one of those things that if the manager feels that it's going to benefit the squad and it's going to benefit him, I'm all for it. At the end of the day, they've got a series of games coming up that are going to make or break their season. So I can understand why he's doing it. And what I took from that, though, was more about he's talking to the board. I think that's really quite interesting that they're going to sit down. It's not early, but at the same time, to get a sit and a chat with them and kind of get the plans for the summer, it shows you that they're thinking well in advance, doesn't it? So, yeah, to be honest, it doesn't bother me, Stevie. I think it's a nice thing to get the boys together where they can't go home effectively and be with their families. It's just that it is literally that intimate setting. So I'm all for it. As long as it works, I'll be absolutely delighted, obviously.
Yeah, Andrew, what do you make of this trip to Spain? What are you hoping comes out of it?
Yeah, it's for me, it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, because all the positives that can happen from going away. That team cohesion. Get that extra time on the training pitch to iron out some tactics, just some kind of in-game sessions and scenarios. That can be brilliant if it works, and if we end up blowing this lead and blowing our chance at the title, then it will be held against them and the board. It's just the way that the landscape works here. That the good things are only good when they're good, and they're bad when they're bad. I think it's a good idea personally. As Kenny said, they are isolated with football being the only thing on their mind, and the journey that they've got, the remaining games they've got to play. The manager, I think he's a very intelligent man. Um, from my sole meeting with him, I get that the vibe that he's a a positive thinker with football, a modern head on some more mature shoulders, being part of all the right organisations for a club of our size previously. I've been involved with Barron, teams that are born and bred to win things. He gets where we are and the point we are in the season. So I think it's a positive thing, and I look forward to seeing it all come together when they go back to playing in the league.
Yes, I expect swashbuckling football, attacking everybody with an extremely fantastic tan, all happy, delightful. Andrew, you'll get the chance to speak to the board about all things, plan a wee bit for the future, which will be well underway, I'm sure, in the summer and things like that, and budgets, transfers. Now, there'll be several options. Rangers, if they win the league, look like good for straight in the Champions League. That's going to affect plans. If they don't win and perhaps are second, that might be another route. Worst scenario, if they're third, then a route for that, and they've got to plan accordingly for each one. That can only be a good thing. It's not a good thing that we don't have a game at the weekend. We're going to be watching jealous as most likely Falkirk and St Mirren make the final, and we don't want that not to involve Rangers, but we do want to try and use this. We do have a bounce game over there in Spain, so that becomes important, that nobody gets injured or picks up knocks or anything like that. But it is a good chance for us to put things in motion. Is it a bit naive of me, April time, to be thinking that we should be looking at Bosmans? We should be dealing. We should be knowing our targets. Should we have signed a couple of players? Maybe you could argue possibly we should have picked up Bosmans. Maybe we have. It's all quiet. You never know. But these sort of things are the things I would be hoping we're putting in place for next year. And Kenny, you jump in after Andrew as well, mate.
Yeah, I think this is a launching point for the next, obviously our summer recruitment, but for the windows beyond that. I think this is a real kind of starting point where you can really start to put the building blocks for what the board expects of Danny Rohl's tenure as a whole. I'm expecting it to be a long and successful reign, as I think you have to do as a football club. There'll be no point in us, calculating funding for second place. We want to be branching off and planning for the best case scenario, as that's what I believe our team can achieve, a league title, and then obviously what comes with European football after that. There's obviously lots of questions about this squad of players, this group of players. But I have to say, happily, in the last few weeks, months, that has been good things said about a number of our players. So you're future-proofing for potentially sales, good sales at that, with a lot of players being linked with a lot of good teams in the UK and on the continent. So you're going to have to put those plans in place, contingencies for selling a key player in your squad. So you're going to have names for, your targets, if that is the case, and those deals do become real. You're going to have to obviously take into account the positions that you only have on loan. So you're going to have to be looking again to strengthen the majority of your back line. As we've said a few times, that everybody's favourite the lost man, Max Aarons, coming back in off the bench. That was a surprise, but again, only here on loan. So you're going to have to think about the loan market for next year. I think Europe is the main thing, Stevie, because our European campaigns this year across qualifying and the Europa League were disastrous. I don't think there's any other way to describe it. And it became a kind of null point because obviously in recent seasons we've had contending into the round of 32 and so on, even years before that doing even better. But a completely null point in Europe this year because we were out of it so early. And then obviously out of it the cups as well. So we had really no other extracurricular games other than the league to play. So planning for that, definitely. But yeah, it's a positive place that we're having these talks now. We're not having disastrous talks. But it's really planning for the future, which is exactly what we need to do, is especially since the game of football doesn't really stop. You're going to have a World Cup after the season finishes, which gives you another chance to look at players, especially if we're looking at players who are playing for the international teams. It's like Nadim Bayrami straight off the Euros previously. So, the game of football doesn't stop and we need to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I'll take up on what Andrew's saying there about Europe. I think that's probably part of what they're going to discuss is if you stop and you consider for a wee minute, if we finish top, then the chances are we might well get automatic qualification. That's going to affect the budget. If we finish second, we'll go into the qualifiers. You don't know quite where you're going to be. And if we finish third, we're going to go into the Conference League, and that would, I would imagine, is going to curtail your budget a little bit, or force the board to look at it in a different way, if you like. So targets are going to be categorised, I would think. But I don't know if it's just that. I think it's just the future planning for the club. I think when you look at Danny Rohl and the job that he's done, I think Andrew Kavanagh and his board must be incredibly impressed by what he's done. So they might well be looking at saying, what is it that you want? Let's see how we can go about doing that and getting the best available out there that we could possibly get. And I just find it interesting. Do you know what I mean by that? I thought that was a really interesting point for Danny Rohl to make. And he said it twice now, that I'm going to talk to the board. So it's quite pointed that he's telling everybody he's got a good relationship with the board, and that the chats out here are going to be pretty informal but pretty insightful for him, I would imagine. So I'm quite excited about that, because, as I say, I think when you consider where we're going to be come the pre-season, we're not quite sure. So I think there'll be a lot of different types of priority planning, if you understand. And I think that's probably where I see that. As I say, I'm sure there'll be other aspects of the football club that he's talking about with the board as well that he'd like to improve.
I just think what I would like to see for the players is to get some rest, get some relaxation, take them away from the pressure, the noise, the expectation, just for a few days. Let them chill out, reset, and then come back with the same mentality that they showed when they went 2-0 down to Falkirk. Players on at each other, players driving each other on. Show that spirit, that determination, that togetherness. A few days out in the sun, good for morale, won't do them any trouble, in my opinion. We've got 3 games to win this league. 3 wins, 9 points, and I truly believe that will be enough. We just need to take it a game at a time, Motherwell first, and then we'll see what comes after that. Rangers are in a pretty good place. I think it is a good time. As Andrew says, though, like all things with Rangers, you go away, come back and draw with Motherwell, and it's all because we went away. A la the trips to Dubai, we come back and we're all firing. It's because we went away and the sun done them brilliantly. This is Rangers. This is the life you lead, ladies and gentlemen. I do need to highlight this comment because it's got my heart rate, and it could be well timed to cash in on Nico Raskin. Rangers man 55, consider yourself banned from the channel. What a shocking accusation. Stevie, would you give Nico Raskin an extension? His contract is up in May 2028. Absolutely, I would make him captain as well, because he is our best player. And well, that's a hill I will die on. Speaking of hills I would die on, Kenny and Andrew, I took my Oliver Antman opinion to the graveyard, which is X, and asked people what they thought. And I was amazed to find that there was 2,000 likes and over 150 comments, and most of them positive for Oliver Antman. And I simply said that I can see a player in there. I quite like him. I'd said on the show the other night, I'm not sure what I do. I like him. He gives me a kind of positive feeling when I'm watching him. I think he's got good energy. I was amazed to find that people agreed with me, because usually my opinions aren't that great, as you tell me regularly, Kenneth. But I was quite pleased with that. A lot of people saying that they would like to see him stay. A lot of people saying that they've enjoyed watching him. So there was a lot of love out there for Ollie Antman, I think. So I was quite pleased to see that, lads.
Look, Oliver Antman's got good pace. He's got ability. He's got drive. He can get the byline. He can score a goal. He can assist. What's not to like? Has he had a difficult season? Absolutely. But we are the world's worst fan base for this, for judging players so quickly. I'll always hark back to this. If you look at it, Mark Hateley got 20 goals in his first season, but nobody gave a hoot until that very last game where he went and won the league for us with a double. And we are that fickle that we will pick fault in everybody. Yes, you. We will pick fault in everything and anything. But for me, we're just impatient, Stevie. I think we're desperate for success, and when we see individuals perhaps not performing the way that we know they can, or we believe that they should be, we get very frustrated, and we're not shy at coming forward and voicing our opinion when it comes to that. But Oliver Antman's a cracking player, and he got the top assist record in the Eredivisie last season, and you don't do that. And okay, it might be a different league, and we get that, but you don't create that amount of chances and create that amount of goals. And what is effectively, I think it's the sixth best league in Europe, without being a good player. So we have to be patient. I would certainly be keeping him for next season because of the fact that he's had a couple of injuries this season. He was one of the ones that I pointed out Monday, Stevie, that I genuinely felt he was one of the most confused when it came to Russell Martin, because he came in late. He came in late, and you could tell that he's walked into an absolute shit show where every other player round about must be giving it, we don't know what's going on. And he was like, well, turned up against Victoria Pilsen, played very well, and then just get progressively worse because he just didn't know what he was meant to be doing. With a good coach, with a good manager, you can see. I don't know what you guys think. I'll ask you that then. What do you think? I prefer him on the left, actually. I think he's more productive in the left, but he can play both sides, and he can play. I believe he played in the middle for Finland just at the last international break. So this boy is obviously adaptable and can play, and he's versatile, so he can play just about anywhere, across the front.
I would like to agree with that point. I think you're seeing all the attributes of someone who's versatile enough to play both flanks and also making it a real good go of it through the middle. He does like to drift inside, so if you're starting him central, he could be useful in those positions. I was a bit critical after that first game. I think that first game we all went, this is exactly what we want. Bomb and wire straight down the line, cross in, and he gets a brilliant assist. And then it kind of curtailed off with obviously everything went on with Russell Martin. And at first, I was starting to think, we have fallen for this great hype, because if you look at his stats, and I did at the time, I mean, he had a great season at Go Ahead Eagles in the Eredivisie, as Kenny said. He had a really, really brilliant season statistically, but it was a career year. The previous year, I think he had something like 20 plus goal involvements for the Go Ahead Eagles, but I think the previous 4 seasons before that, the best he had was about 5 goal involvements across the entire season at Nordsjælland. So I was a bit like, well, we've fallen for the golden goose. We thought Bayrami was going to be brilliant, and he looked good for about 4 games when he came in and fell straight off the edge of that cliff that we've seen players do under previous recruitment drives. But I think, as you said, that there is a player in there. He has those attributes to be a real nuisance at our level. He's growing on me significantly. He just needs a clean bill of health and a good run of games, so we can really make a proper assessment of him. There's obviously a talent there. I mean, he won the Finnish national team's player of the year, which tells you something. I mean, Finland isn't the worst market for football. There's some real players growing out there. This area of football in Europe and in those areas is a growing, booming market. We've seen Norway have a real good boost in production to players going into the national team and getting signed by big clubs all over Europe. So that kind of Scandinavia area, it's a hotbed for football, ironically, because it's bloody cold. But it's a player that, again, clean bill of health, good run of games. Whether that's going to be this running, if it is, and he continues to find assists like he did for Bo Falkirk, then that would be another brilliant addition to have for the running.
Okay, before we kind of go on as well, this has came up a few times, and I'll just explain to you what's happened. Rangers do not have to give us access press-wise or gantry-wise or anything. They do it because they feel that we add something to the media. We have a really good relationship with Rangers. We actually will be I think we're due a kind of interview with somebody from the club coming up as well. The club have been really good with our access and stuff, so hopefully we'll get that as well. Just to go back to this question, Linda, a lot of people have asked about it. So everybody will have noticed the start of the season, particularly on games in the gantry, we were able to do a bit of impromptu live commentating, and it wasn't really meant to happen, but we would go and maybe describe a goal, and during that maybe somebody was attacking or something, and we would talk through it live. What inadvertently has happened is that we have breached broadcasting rules from the gantry, which we weren't aware that we were doing, because we're not filming the pitch. You're not in any way allowed to film the pitch. So you will notice maybe on socials that some videos I've put up lately have filmed the crowd in the stands. That's all you can do. You're not allowed to film the pitch at all. So what we were asked by Rangers was that we would not do any live vlogging from the gantry at the moment. The club extremely supportive of our position. We asked them, could we still just film ourselves and be a bit more careful? And they asked just at the moment while they get things clarified that we didn't do it. So what we've done is we do it before halftime and after. What we're also going to start doing as well, as this was one of Kenny's ideas and he's completely right, we're also going to start filming Danny Rohl's press conference, and you can see a bit more. We're going to do inside Four Lads days where you can see everything. Kenny and I are actually going to do it. I think one of the upcoming after game splits, we'll show you how we walk from the car, we'll show you inside Ibrox, we'll show you the media section, we'll show you the media rooms, media walk up to the gantry, we'll show you everything what we do on a match day. So yes, Linda, the question is, are we not allowed to do commentary at the gantry anymore? We're not. That's it, quite simply. That has been a kind of broadcasting breach, if you like, Kenny, inadvertently from us. We didn't know we were doing it. To be fair, Rangers never really knew we were doing it either. Sky, BBC, the broadcaster rights are the ones that are able to do that. TNT, the people that actually pay. So listen, we will work with Rangers, and we don't want to be in a situation where we upset the club and the club are kind of put in an awkward position with Sky and stuff as well. So the club asked us, could we watch what we're doing? There may be a time where it comes back and we're just able to be a wee bit more careful in what we're doing. Certainly won't ever be a time where we can call a live goal, no matter what's going on. So we'll do our best, and I think the club have been really good with us, so we can't complain about that, and I definitely wouldn't do that. But just to explain to you what's happened, Kenny, that's kind of inadvertently what happened to us.
Yeah, and I think part of it, Stevie, if we're being honest, is the amount of goals we've caught as we've went.
That's entirely it, isn't it? Yeah.
It is one of these things that the last thing that you or I would want to do is put Rangers in a position where we're breaching a broadcasting contract effectively, because that is exactly the way it is, where, with all respect, Four Lads puts money in here, but we don't put 30 million. We've got a year in like Sky do, so they're perfectly within their rights to kick off a little bit if they feel that we are getting a privilege that perhaps we're not paying for. So listen, I'll just reiterate what you've said there. The club are absolutely brilliant with us. It's an incredible feeling when you go in there and the way that everybody just treats you like a pal, and they genuinely do. It's a wonderful environment when you go in on a match day and you do the media stuff. It is a massive privilege. So the last thing we are going to do is piss anybody off and put Rangers in as you say, a difficult or an awkward situation where they are actually having to answer to other people. So we quite rightly, when you were talking to who, you turned around and said, no, that's fine, we'll just stop doing that. And you actually come over to me and said at the time, right, we've got a wee bit of an issue, so we'll go and do this. And I said, well, that's exactly quite right too, because the bottom line is we treat that as a bit of an honour and a bit of a privilege, don't we? So we're not going to jeopardise that in any way, shape or form.
It is a shame. Like, genuinely, I loved it. I absolutely channeled my inner Archie McPherson, and I would have loved to have caught a big long-range shot and been able to go, woof! That would have been incredible. But sadly, for at least this moment in time, a complete accident. folks that like hopefully understand. Like, I would hope that in time we'll get to talk to the club and we'll go get a kind of happy medium somewhere. But Rangers are brilliant with us, and it's not something that we want to push. So, Nick, Greg, all the team there are great. So we'll work with it. We'll see how it goes. We'll maybe adapt and see what we can do. But what we'll do is we will bring you other things. So at the Motherwell home game, Kenny and I are on. We're going to do an inside day of media stuff. We'll do. We'll show you what we do on a match day. We'll show you how we walk up to the gantry. We'll show you what it's like from the gantry. We'll show you the view, all that kind of stuff, because we'll be able to do that as long as the players aren't on the pitch or anything like that. We can show you, even for warm-ups, we'll have a look around and stuff. So hopefully that will make it, as Gaz says, adapt and evolve, Stevie. That's exactly what we'll try and do. If people have got an idea of what they would like on match days for us to do that'll maybe make it a wee bit better, then let us know, and we can see. What we've actually thought of doing is maybe the ones that were on the gantry do our bit as normal before, during half time, and then after, but maybe get one of the other 4 lads guys, and I think Amrit would be perfect for this. Get Amrit to do the in-game clips. He sends them over, we put it all together in the match day vlog, and that's what makes it so you could have Kenny and I before, during, after, and Amrit actually in the game. Can you imagine what Amrit would be like? So that might work perfectly. So we'll adapt, and we appreciate all the support, and hopefully we'll bring it back. So, and incidentally as well, see when I sat down with Amrit and he had his big jacket on the Sunday at the Falkirk game, he said to me, "Make sure your fat ass doesn't rip this one again." Shocking. It was funny, but it was really quite shocking. Nico Raskin was interviewed by Joshua Barry, Rangers Review. Absolutely brilliant interview. First time we've actually had a sit down with that in a long time. Praised the manager's tactical expertise. Admiration for Danny Rohl. Spoke of how serene and calm he is. I don't know what serene means. Kenny's put it in the agenda, so I can only imagine it means calm and level-headed and everything else. A bit like myself, serene. I like that. He also spoke, he told Danny Rohl understands how intense Glasgow is. He spoke, I think, about the Motherwell game, in particular when it was 1-1 and we were all really down, and Danny was just completely on level with it. So he spoke really highly of Danny Rohl. He spoke about the other guy as well, which we'll speak about, Russell Martin, in a wee second. I don't want to blur the two boys, but Andrew Kenny really highly spoke of Danny Rohl. We know what Danny's like. Usable, spoke to him after press conferences. We know what he's like. He doesn't get too high. He doesn't get too low. I'm not allowed to sing to him. I asked him if I could. He said no, because we were nearly top of the league. I was getting excited. He laughed and said no. It's a shame. Maybe if we win the league, I will. Maybe, speaking of gantry things, that might end it. Well, I am a good singer. But anyway, he is great, isn't he? Just completely calm and everything, Andrew. And you can see that. And when the players have that, obviously, it's rubbing off on them, because you can see how they're adapting on pitch. And when they are going 2 goals down like Sunday, they aren't getting flustered. He remains the same. Tactical tweaks at half time and gets them going again. I liked it. I liked what he had to say about him. I'm not surprised about it, to be honest. But I do like what he said about Danny Rohl.
I think both those, the Nico and Danny, are both really, really strong characters in the game of football. I think Nico, he seems about as resilient a player I can think of in the last few years. I mean, he's had these ups and downs definitely this season. But his tenure with Philippe Clement and bringing him by Michael Beale previously, he's a player that I think can go as far in the game as he wants to go, Nico Raskin. And I think it'll be an interesting summer for him, going with Belgium, assuming there's no, touch wood, there's no injuries that rules him out of the World Cup. I expect him to be part of that squad. So that's a massive thing for him as a player. From Danny Rohl's perspective, I mean, let me just double check the facts. 283 days into a German Duolingo streak, just because if it gives me any extra insight into what the man thinks, and I'll have that. I did French at school, so this is uncharted waters. But yeah, I'm fully behind Danny. I think, I mean, he has the aura about him. Sitting in the press conference, you feel that kind of presence, and it doesn't have to be a a loud, shouty presence. There's a coolness, and I have a sense of I know what I'm doing, and you can relax because I'm doing the job. You can just chill, and it's refreshing because, as we said, and I'm sure we'll go into the previous man in the helm. It was like disastrous. Couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. The guy. I mean, it was getting gaslit. That's what it felt like. And I sat in one of those press conferences, and it was disastrous at the time. And this is from someone who, unlike yourselves, didn't have many brilliant managers to sit and listen to. I was not fortunate to be sitting in press rooms with Stephen Gerrard, but I was listening to BT Sport conferences with Pedro Caixinha talking about his vision for Rangers and how he thinks that regardless of how this team is, they are the best team in the country because I said they're the best team in the country. And that was a team that had, I don't know, Declan John in it. So I think that tells you all you need to know. So, yeah, the man himself, breath of fresh air, but a calm leader. And I foresee him being a massive success at Rangers.
Andrew, sprechen die Deutsch?
Mein Deutsch, nicht sehr gut.
Yeah. Kenny?
I did French.
It's
Leave me
after
alone.
half
I'm
seven,
getting there.
I don't know.
283 days to know less than me, who got like a 6 in standard grade German. And that's all I remember.
Don't start with
Secondly,
standard grade. This is the age gap. I had National 5 French. This standard grade isn't modern, and I think this is me showing my youth. Never mind you showing your age, but my youth will be the worst thing these days.
You know, I
But,
can mute
yeah.
you and take you off this pod now. You know that.
That's what I was saying. My youth is the downfall. Your experience is the positive.
Kenny, Nico Raskin on Danny Rohl.
Yeah, first of all, I think I'll call you Mr. Serendipity from now on. Listen, first of all, I want to say big up to Joshua Barry for that interview. It's absolutely... Did you find that funny eventually, did you? Big up to Joshua Barry. It's a fantastic interview, and if you haven't read it, people, I would urge everybody to go and even just subscribe and get reading that. It's an hour-long interview, and how he's crammed so much into it. He's got 2 full articles on it yesterday and today, and it's a genuinely a really insightful and probing interview. He gets a lot out of Nico, doesn't he? So fair play to him for that. Nico and Danny Rohl, I was thinking about this, and kind of Andrew almost kind of pointed to it a little bit, I think, where I think Nico's one of those kind of tempestuous or fiery, whatever you want to call him, characters, and I think Danny Rohl being almost like a polar opposite to him, I think just the blend just works really, really well. Really interesting that Danny Rohl has said that he's his go-to when it comes to talking about tactics. Nico's already turned around and said he's spending more time, in the tactic room with the manager and the coaches, really getting to understand this. And he's always been one that he'll question. Everybody knows that Nico, if he's not 100% certain about something, in the last 74 managers we've had in the last 3 years, he's quite prepared to turn around and question it. So I really like that he's taking it on board. He's understanding it. He goes into great depth about why he is playing almost in between the centre halves at times. And it's to play that extra pass and just create space. He talks about how you've got to go quick, slow almost at times in Scotland because teams are so organised. Something he also said that I found really interesting was that he mentioned that he believes that since he's got here, teams in Scotland have improved really quite a lot. And I tend to agree with that. I think the proof's been in or evidence this season when you look at how tight that league is, where you look at, I think St Mirren are sitting 11th at this minute. They've already won a trophy this year. So it shows you there's a depth of decent quality within the league. Just a fantastic interview, really insightful and an intriguing read when you particularly the stuff that Nico says about the difference between Russell Martin and Danny Rohl is absolutely intriguing. It's an absolutely cracking read.
Yeah, on to the next bit. Russell Martin told him to leave a few days before the summer transfer window closed. There's a whole lot on Russell Martin. I don't really want to talk about Russell Martin, but what I will say is people might remember a way back when this was all going on, I spoke up for Nico Raskin. I've known Nico for quite a wee while. Well, he's been at Rangers, just a fantastic player, a fantastic lad, loves the club. Am I naive enough to think that if Nico got a big, massive move that he would stay here? Of course he wasn't. He wants to progress, and I love that. But if we're getting 15, 20 million for it, then absolutely, I want Nico Raskin to be like he was on Sunday. Now, there's more to the story about Russell Martin of what he did to Nico, and it's quite frankly absolutely disgusting. I said at the time, Nico Raskin does not want to leave Rangers. He had no intention of leaving Rangers. He was extremely happy here until Russell Martin did what he did to him, embarrassed him the way he did. Since he's gone, he's played nearly every single game, and people have talked about Nico Raskin on this pod, said he wasn't in form, wasn't this, wasn't that. And yeah, I might be a wee bit biased or whatever, but I firmly believe that Nico Raskin is our best player. Certainly on a day like Sunday, he showed that. Russell Martin was the wrong guy for Rangers Football Club in the wrong time. He had an arrogance about him that made it clear that we should be thankful that he's here. Danny Rohl's got an attitude of he's thankful to be here, and I think that's the massive difference. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this, Kenny, but it was clear that Russell Martin tried to throw Nico Raskin under the bus to get him out of the football club. Not only him, possibly a few others as well. Spoke about him being thrown under the bus after the Motherwell game as well. Russell Martin just got it completely wrong.
To target your captain and effectively your leader on the pitch is a bold strategy in anybody's book, isn't it? When he did that after the Motherwell game, because again the evidence was there in front of us for the whole time, and there was a reason why when that happened, Stevie, that the entire stand, the entire 52,000 people at Ibrox, when he was dropped and told to go and find himself a new club, that there was 52,000 people turning around and singing his name and basically telling Russell Martin where to go. Martin got it all wrong. We don't really need to go over this nonsense with the guy. He's an indignant, deluded human being at times when it comes to certain things. Does he know more about football than I do? Yeah, absolutely. However, that doesn't make him a good manager. It doesn't make him a good manager. And I'm going to actually point to something that Davey Edgar, our good friend Davey Edgar, said on one of his podcasts yesterday. I think it was yesterday in his daily update, where he turned on and said about how he was told on the phone to leave, and then a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever it was, he gets invited to this mental Loch Lomond trip, and there's not a mention of it and how you do it, and it's the kind of the mark of the man, Stevie, that you can't tell him to his face, and then when you do eventually meet him, you don't even bother mentioning it. It kind of sums up the worst manager in our history. That's the bottom line. He is, and he will always be remembered as that. So, you know more about this than most, Stevie, right? But the way Nico was treated at that point was absolutely disgusting. I mean, it genuinely was. For a guy that's such a valuable asset, they're trying to sell him on the cheap. They're just trying to get him out the door. It's pathetic. It's not right. And Nico has stood up and been counted this season and grown stronger as the seasons went on, when you consider everything that he's had to go through. So fair play to the young man.
Yeah,
I'm sure you'll hear more about that on 5 Live with Mark Chapman the next time Russell Martin goes back on the radio to talk more about his time, because he doesn't seem to want to shut up about it last week. So I'm sure we'll hear more about it. I mean, you'll be you know how I feel. I mean, we spoke about this for like the last 5 minutes, and I'm genuinely almost angry again. That's how bad this feels. I mean, it's we've seen managers have issues with players. I mean, think of Philippe Clement and Todd Cantwell. You think before that, and it's not completely unheard of that managers just don't get on with certain players in football. But your best financial piece, a star, a fan favourite, a key gem in our midfield, which, think of that Parkhead performance in the midfield with Barron and Dio. I mean, I heard some things from a Barron point of view with Russell Martin, and none of them sounded good. So again, God knows what goes through that man's head.
Yeah, I just look. Russell Martin's a nice guy. It's not a personal thing. Genuinely, it's not a personal thing. Spent time with him, and he's actually very self-deprecating. He's actually a really nice guy. And then I wouldn't even say he got the brown brogues on, because he didn't even have the wherewithal to put them on. But when he got in the Rangers manager position, he just completely changed as a person. So yeah, there it is. Conor Barron, Andrew says, ambitions for the season, desperate to win the league. It would mean absolutely everything to him. Wants to get on the flight to America with the national squad. Yeah, I think Conor Barron was playing his best stuff for Rangers before he got injured. Absolutely brilliant player to have in this squad. He's not starting for me. Here's a difficult conundrum. I think Chukwuani's been excellent, but he's still raw. He's still a wee bit tactically naive at times, but I think he was a massive reason why we came back into that game on Sunday. I thought he was excellent. I know that's been criticised by a few, but I don't mind my opinion being criticised. That's fine. I thought he was great. And that's the problem. I think Chukwuani and Raskin have nailed that for this moment. Diamandi's miles out of the picture. And at times he would have been bang on starter, especially after New Year Celtic game. So it shows the strength we have in there. But I'd love to see Conor Barron go with Scotland to the World Cup, especially because Scotland are going to win it.
Yeah, I mean, as a player that I like, I mean, I tend to, I mean, previously before I started podcasting, Scotland under 21 used to play a lot of the games at Summer Park, and I used to go to a lot of them and see some of the up and coming players. Wanted to keep an eye on Lewis Ferguson. I mean, Ollie McBurnley back in those days when he was an under 21 and scoring goals and looking like a real hot talent up and coming. But I mean, I got a picture with Billy Gilmore back in the day when we were both fresh-faced young midfielders with potential, and now one of them's playing at Napoli and the other one's playing five-a-side. So I don't know if that tells you what you need to know.
He's
about
not even the
football.
best player in his family, to be honest, like Billy. But you know what I mean, there's somebody else who hosts a podcast that's miles better. But anyway, moving on.
No comment. No comment. We'll move on. Yeah, it's the depth thing with Rangers at the minute. You've got so much talent in that midfield corner. Tochi, Dio, Nico. I mean, even slightly further forward. I mean, we've seen good spells from Nadeem when he's come off the bench in performances and that kind of. If you want to talk about a creative midfielder, we have that depth that we so much wanted and yearned for in the window. And you're now struggling to pick players. And I think you're formation wise, you're jumping between, three mids, two mids, with the wingers obviously ahead of them, but going to the 4-2-2-2 or a 4-4-2, you're getting two central midfielders now instead of the three you used to have. So you are going to have to make a sacrifice and drop someone to the bench, maybe even drop it from the matchday squad altogether. I think if you can keep that depth when you have important games again, when the schedule ramps up with the start of the new season with Europe and your cup comps and things like that, where you're going to have more need for rotation, then we're in a good spot. So yeah, it's not a bad thing, but you're just going to have to make some tough choices because it's too important to be playing, to be giving everyone minutes when you're consistently getting a tune out of certain players, and then you don't really need to change if it's not needing changed.
Certainly the strongest in midfield will be for a while, Kenny. Moving on, Rangers will host clubs on the 23rd of April to discuss officiating standards and what can be done to improve them. We talked about this. Rangers gave us a kind of insight into this, I think, last month. They're quite happy to push on their own opinion, but they will not be held accountable. They will not be the one firing the gun. I think for everybody else, Kenny, was what we were kind of. They want a productive conversation amongst everybody, which benefits all teams in the league. We've seen the standards this year; they're quite frankly way off, and even the ones that we thought were good, dare I mention the likes of Nick Walsh, who was really promising years ago, have just turned into questionable decision making and things like that. So, yeah, Kenny, what do you make of that?
What do I make of it? The standards are just not good enough. We know that, right? And this is not a pod here that we're just going to stick a boot in for the sake of it. It's more about this particular piece of news that we're going to host this on the 23rd. Who and what clubs are coming, I don't know. But by all accounts, most of them are coming. So I know that Rangers are going to be quite forceful about their opinion on this. That's fair, because I think they've already turned and said that the status quo can't remain, effectively, that this version of VAR isn't going to be good enough, etc. So what becomes of it, we'll wait and see, Stevie, because I do genuinely believe that there has to be a huge consensus amongst all clubs and supporters in Scotland at this minute in time that the standards are not good enough. They're being scrutinised to the nth degree all the time, and I think that is part of the issue that we have. That I think because our VAR looks like an etch-a-sketch or something like that, it's the camera angles at times are making people look onside or offside when. And that's the kind of general take from the refereeing side of things, where other people are just looking at it, giving it's just dubious. It's just, it looks dodgy. It's that simple. So whether it is or not, I very much doubt. But at the same time, I have a little bit of an issue with VAR in general at the moment. I don't know if you guys watched the Atletico Madrid game last night with Barcelona. Well, cut a long story short, one of the Barcelona players gets sent off. 10 minutes to go. And this is my issue with VAR at this minute in time. I actually was going to post on our chat, but I didn't bother because I thought it'll take too long to explain this. But cut it to quick. Boy pushes Big Biz at Horvath Horse, whatever his name is. Actually pushes him, last man, but the referee instantly runs across. And he's quite clearly the last man, but he gives him a yellow card, blows his whistle, and basically says to VAR, go and check that. And that's not what it's for. That, to me, is not what it should be for. So it's very difficult to turn around and overly criticise our referees when I watch other referees at the very, very top level of the game doing exactly the same thing, which is over-relying on technology, when they should have the courage of their own convictions, effectively, where it's quite a clear red card to send the guy off and then let VAR change it if it's not. So I don't want to stick a boot into referees today, because I just feel we've done this since the day we started this pod. We're just sticking the boot into them every single week, and rightly so. But at the same time, let's see what Rangers can do here in terms of getting the clubs together and getting an amalgamated opinion on the way forward, because anything that can improve the technology and the standards of the officiating can only be a good thing.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked about it too much. Willie Collum. Yeah. Enough said about Willie Collum. Falkirk, in particular, their CEO, Jamie Swinney, just whinging. Let's be quite honest with you. I was in that Falkirk end, and Falkirk are not the angels that they think they are. Let's be honest with you. Some bad language coming up, but I was there. I held us getting called Hun bastards, dirty orange bastards, everything. Was there singing from the Rangers end? Yeah. See if you're going to be big boys and hand it out. Stop greeting when you get beat. and Rangers have sung some naughty words. And it purely was because they get beat. See, by the way, if they had went 3-0 up and given us a swat on the side, they wouldn't be caring about big bad songs from the Rangers fans. So man up is all I'm going to say about that. It will come as no surprise, ladies and gentlemen, that Jamie Swinney has been extremely quiet on other teams that have visited, in particular his very own beloved, who is now becoming clear that he's been pictured in Celtic tops, at Celtic games, etc. Complained about Rangers fans being in the home sections of their stadium. Obviously not me, because I was wonderfully behaved. If that's the case, would it maybe not suggest that Falkirk, Kenny haven't sold their own, and Andrew as well haven't sold their own tickets? That's hardly Rangers fans' fault for picking them up. He's ignored his own fans' chant and just basically had a bitch about Rangers. We all know why he's done that. We all know why, right? He's a Celtic fan. I'm going to use this chance to shine a light on Rangers. He's been magically cold, or quiet rather, when other teams have visited. But for us, then yeah, he's. Do you know what? Falkirk were shouting and bawling. I was in the middle. I heard all of it, and I couldn't care less. I heard our fans. I just don't care. If you're going to go to football and be a snowflake about stuff that's sung and shouted and everything else, just get on with it. There's no way Jamie Swinney is having a tantrum if Falkirk win that game on Sunday, and I don't care what anybody else says. It's they got turned over and they're a wee bit sore about it. Rangers sung bad songs. We'll ignore our own fans. It's all a bit pathetic, and nobody's going to tell me it isn't because Jamie Swinney isn't a Celtic fan, because it absolutely is.
It's difficult because here's the thing. As a Rangers fan, I don't care about any other team in our league, but it would be, it would be naive to not mention that Falkirk have had a great season. They're a feel good factor about the club. It's a real good story. Coming up from the Championship and then coming up from League One. It would be a really good positive thing for them, and it was difficult not to, when they have a good result, you go, oh, well done, fair play, good for Falkirk. But they've just kind of like put the boot in that now. I mean, it's, as you said, it seems like sour grapes. They've really kind of stapled their intent to the mast, especially from, as you've said, there's no surprises about the team that he truly has allegiances for. And it always seems to be Rangers that gets tarred with this brush, and it always goes quiet elsewhere. But as you said, if teams are going to continue to take a harsh stance on how many tickets they're willing to give us, why don't you just sell out your stadium? And if you're going to continue to hold, no, this is reserved for our loyal support who follow Falkirk near and far. Sell your tickets to Falkirk fans then, or you make a judgment and you go, well, what financially is going to be better for us, instead of us playing that we don't need us. We don't need Rangers. I fear that we've been down this road before with a half-empty rugby park, and that's not. That can be a Wednesday night game. That can be a Saturday game. It can be a Sunday game. It could be any game that you want to call half-empty. But it's a choice they make, and if that's what they're willing to do, then that's their own rope to hang themselves on. So we'll
Kenny,
back off.
It could be that Jamie Swinney's just potentially upset about the chance of watching the famous Glasgow Rangers lift the title at Falkirk at the end of the season. Personally, that would put a wee bit of a silver lining on it for me. Not that I'm better, Kenny. Come on, you know me. I'm a perfectly lovable character. I'm not better in any way. I just hate them. I think that's acceptable.
It's funny that he comes out, over they come out with a statement like that. Now, I know people that work for Falkirk, and I've not texted them yet, but I'm going to. And I'm going to tell them you're a bunch of two-faced fucking hypocrites, man. It's just ridiculous, because you cannot come out with stuff like that, because look, it's either selective hearing or he's deaf in one ear and perfectly acute hearing in the other. You can't turn around and call one bit out. This really pisses me off with Scottish football in general. I just can't understand how naive people actually are, that they do this and don't think for a minute that the minute you attack, whether it's us or Celtic as a football club or as a support, that people are going to start digging into you then because you're being a dick about things. Because I actually watched the game at Falkirk where Celtic played them, and I listened to absolute bile for 90 minutes off of the Celtic supporters, but he didn't crack a light about that. Now, I'm not using whataboutery here. He is, and that's what I can't be bothered with. You either call it all out or just shut the fuck up, mate, because it's really tedious for Rangers supporters. We don't give a shit. We just don't fucking care. You turn around and tell us this stuff all the time, and we go, okay then, get it up you. We'll carry on. And it might sound terrible to certain people. I don't care. The more you antagonise a support, what do you think they're going to do? And this is the problem that I have with people like that, is that they are quite prepared to take the moral high ground while condoning the other terrorist nonsense. And you're like, well, geez, peace, man. We don't care. If you're going to not call it all out, this is where I've had a real issue with this for many, many, many years, mate, where they call it sectarianism or bigotry or whatever it is. The only thing that's going to sort this is education, right? And see, until you actually realise it's a social problem, stop fucking tarring Rangers supporters with a brush that is just, come on.
Yeah, we're going down routes we don't want to. He just talks shite. Do you know what's going to be fun? See if Rangers Football Club wins this title. What a summer of absolute pain that everybody in Scotland is going to be showing on a daily basis. I personally can't wait for it. It's going to be absolutely glorious indeed. Can we just wish our friend Killian good luck tonight for Bayern Munich versus Real Madrid? I'm going to really upset him. I quite like Real Madrid, so I'm looking forward to that game. Completely neutral Bayern or some side. So good luck, mate. I hope your team do well. As for everybody that has joined us on the podcast tonight, thank you very much. Thoroughly appreciate all the comments from everybody. I don't know why I kind of go yellow and then grey. I don't know what's going on with my camera, so I can only apologise. Andrew, pleasure, mate. Thanks for stepping in so late on. We had to have somebody with a beautiful hair and bearding since Chris wasn't with us, and you fitted in perfectly. You'd be happy at the clan recently, doing well.
I'm going to Nottingham for the playoff weekend. I bought tickets back in January. I had full belief in the team, and this definitely was not a massive shock that we managed to qualify for the playoff weekend. But that's why I thought I'd come on tonight, because I'll be a write-off Friday, the most of the weekend, and probably most of next week if the amount of alcohol consumed last year was anything to go on, especially with that being without the clan last year. So going to get messy. So I thought I'd get in here and talk some sense before I become senseless for the rest of the week.
Fair enough. Thanks, Killjoy. You look like one of the Simpsons, mate. I don't know what's going on, but is it Homer? Is it Bart? Probably Homer. That'll be fine. Kenneth, pleasure, mate, as always. You are a trooper of Four Lads podcast. Do the agenda every week. Put in a pile of work, and we really, really appreciate it. Thanks. As ever, you've had a cold as well, you wee lamb. Such a shame. Still made it on, though.
Yep, still made it on, mate. No, listen, if I've offended anybody with my wee rant, I apologise, but to Rangers supporters only. I'll not apologise to anybody else. So, look, I've probably had a wee rant because I've got a cold, and the last 20 minutes here I've been struggling with it. So, but thanks for having me on. Thanks for stepping in, Andrew. Top quality show. Loved it.
That was Kenny's Derek Johnson at halftime performance this evening. He went off on a tangent there. I was expecting the refs to get it, but it was coming either way.
I'm just, as Paul just says, amazing. Kenny hasn't had an Avon delivery. We're all delighted at that. It's normally his Wednesday night thing. Yeah, listen, thanks everybody for joining us. See, if you hadn't and you would like to like and subscribe, please do, because that really helps us grow. See, when we go to Rangers and we can say, guys, we've got 12, 13,000 subs, could we get somebody, because the views and everything else makes it worthwhile, then that makes it easier for us to do. And the club are happy to work with us. So if you haven't and liked and subscribed, please do. If you want to join the podcast and become a member, please do. We are really appreciative of everybody. I think there's 650 odd that are members of Four Lads, which we absolutely love. We try and do some extra shows for you. You'll get some interviews and stuff like that, which we really appreciate. So for all our members, thank you very, very much. You've been really loyal and we appreciate it. What's coming up, I'm going to tell you. Last week I teased you a wee bit. We are going to have 1972 legend Willie Matheson on as the next Rangers years, and personally I cannot wait for this one. A winner in 1972, some amazing stories in his 80s, ladies and gentlemen, and he's decided to come and talk to Four Lads. He never does these things, but he's watched the pod and he's heard of it. He's going to sit down with Davey. I hope that it's massively enjoyable, and we're really looking forward to it. What an honour on our podcast to have one of the Barca Bears on. Can't wait to speak to Willie. So David's going to do that. We're really looking forward to it. I hope you all enjoy that. That'll be available for members. Chris Burke interview will be up live. I think we'll do that over the weekend. We'll put it live for everybody else to hear and give you an insight into the kind of stuff we do. We've also got a few more lined up as well. With regards to ex-players, it's really difficult, folks, because they get asked so many times, and because 5 stars, I've got so many of the guys doing live shows and that, which is brilliant. They're a great organisation, no criticism. It just makes it difficult for us when we go and ask. But we'll keep trying, we'll keep asking, and we're really looking forward to. Davey does fantastic work for us. He's very knowledgeable, and he is excited to do this one, so we're looking forward to it. And yeah, we'll keep striving to get some good content out. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to our sponsors, Rhino Express, Clydeview Fire Protection and Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions, CSD Air Conditioning, our very own Candid, and RYDC.co.uk. They are our sponsors to end the season. If you're interested in sponsoring Four Lads and helping us, all our money basically goes back to the club for advertising and sponsorship. If you would like to help us, if you've got a business you would like to advertise, please get in touch. We are looking for sponsors for next season, as that wee list up there is going to dramatically change. A lot of people have been with us for quite a few years and have decided to move on and things, which we thoroughly understand and appreciate. So if you're looking to help us, please do. Please get in contact. You can email us at fourladsadadream@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you, and that keeps us putting money into the club, keeps us promoting the pod and doing our thing. So we really appreciate it. Thanks for your time. Enjoy the football tonight. Bayern versus Real Madrid. Good luck, Killian, and that. We'll be back Friday night, and then over the weekend we will put Chris Burke's podcast out. We will put Tom Miller's podcast out. So we'll make sure there's plenty of content before we return on Monday night once more. Kenny, Andrew, thanks again, lads. On behalf of all of us, keep believing, someone famous once said, and as it said in the stands on Sunday. Thanks for now. Take care, everybody. Bye.
The Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.